Welcome to Bears on Tap, hosted by Quinten Krzysko, Samir Patel, Sonny Verma, and the one and only Ron Luce. Bringing you all the news, analysis, and opinions on the charter franchise, Chicago Bears.
The Chicago Bears are 8-3, 8-3 after taking down the Aaron Rodgers-less Pittsburgh Steelers. Frankly, I don't care that they're weakened. The Bears were weakened. The Bears were down 5-6 starting defensive players today. Like, I'm excited about what this team is looking like. I'm excited about their grit, their ability to tough out some of these wins. My name is Quinten Krzysko. I am joined by Samir Patel for this next episode, post-game edition of Bears on Tap. Samir, how are you doing this evening?
How can you not be doing great, man? What a win for the Bears. They didn't play their best, and they haven't played a full game this entire season, which makes it all this very exciting, right? And I think we can finally put the haven't beaten a winning team narrative, to rest. It's just exciting, man. And people that nitpick the team or not enjoying it, just enjoy it, man. Because where we were at this time last year, it's like night and day. So I am so thrilled. Every game is so much fun to watch, just from the coaching and the quarterbacks and the the playmakers. I feel like this team kind of just finds a way, and it's really fun to watch.
It really is. And one of the things that I was most excited about today, and after the game, going to the game, I was nervous about this because I'm talking about Ozzie Trapillo.
Yeah.
Ozzie started his first career NFL game starting at left tackle today for Theo Benedict, who is out. And I don't think Theo's ever going to get his job back, frankly. Because it's when the game started, I was like, okay, I'm going to focus as much as I can on Ozzie in this game. And by the end of the first quarter, I was like getting entrenched in the game and stopped focusing on it. But in that first quarter, I was like, this guy looks a lot more comfortable than he had. Like when he was brought in as the additional blocker, he looked very uncomfortable to me. He looked very like he wasn't ready for the speed of the game, was how it felt when I saw him out there. So that's what I was worried about coming into this. But what I saw in that first quarter wasn't that. I saw a guy who looked pretty comfortable out there and was really kind of getting after it as a run blocker, trying to really move people, being very aggressive, and a lot more than I'd seen from him as that additional blocker. And in pass pro, he really looked just fine to me. There were no issues that I saw. And as we got to the rest of the games, obviously that was only the first quarter, but the rest of the game was like, you didn't hear his name. You didn't notice him. You didn't realize he was even out there, which is a beautiful thing because every week I notice that Theo Benedict's out there.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. That's the biggest compliment you can give to an offensive lineman, right? Is I didn't hear your name. We saw Wright get beat. We saw Jonah Jackson get beat, right? I was expecting a holding call or two from Ozzie. I just was, right? I mean, Highsmith being out impacted, it had an impact for them for sure. But I was like, okay, even if Ozzie has one holding call, I'm not going to hold it against him. It's his first start. This is a very aggressive pass rush. But yeah, he held his own. Now, I'd like to hear your thoughts on, that part of it. The pass pro part, I think he was better than Theo because Theo has, as we've talked about ad nauseum, struggled with the pass pro, but he's a decent run blocker, right? And the Bears didn't really run the ball as effectively as they normally do today. Do you think that had something to do with the Ozzie versus Theo switch?
I do. I think from a pure standpoint of Theo's a better athlete.
Yeah.
Theo can be used in a lot of different ways in the run block as a run blocker. And also, because he's not like Theo definitely isn't like the most valuable run blocker on the team or anything. Like, it's not like they're asking him to do a ton of wild stuff, but like you trust his ability to get into space. And also, just from a pure playbook standpoint, I think Theo is comfortable. Like I think the run play menu is more open with Theo out there than it is with Ozzie. I felt like the running plays were more dialed back this week, and I have to think that's because of Ozzie being out there and not as well versed in different concepts and different things like that. Now, you mentioned Highsmith being out, and that mattered a lot to me. Like it was like Highsmith is a very, very good edge rusher. But on the same note, man, Nick Herbig has 7 sacks, 36 pressures on the year.
That guy was a beast today.
For whatever you put into PFF grades, I don't really put a lot into them anymore, but edge rusher is one spot where I do feel pretty good about them. Very highly graded edge rusher. So like Herbig is no slouch either. That the Steelers just are 3 deep at edge rusher. It's so happened. So I'm impressed that we didn't hear Herbig's name more today.
He did have a nice tackle for loss on a Monangai run, and he was out. He was pretty active today. I think he was the one that did have the neutral zone infraction or lining up offsides or something on one of the plays there. So I think Ben's game plan was really, really solid in terms of. I know some of those TJ Watt, they're going to get theirs, right? They're going to have their highlight plays, and I'm sure we'll get to the play that TJ Watt made at some point. But I thought Ben did a great job with the cadence, right? Getting those guys a little bit off sides, overcommitting. Man, that screen he called was great timing and great touch by patience by Caleb. So I really think they used that over aggression to their advantage today.
I think so too. And it's I don't know. I felt like today was a game where the running game wasn't working, right? Yep. You can't count on your defense all that much, and the passing game had to work, and it did. It wasn't Caleb's cleanest game ever, but they still put up 31 points. Yeah. Despite turning the ball over twice, they put up 31 points. That is really impressive. Like, how many times did they even punt today? Like twice?
Yeah.
I want to say it was only twice. Let's see. Oh no, they punted 4 times apparently.
Oh, 3. Okay.
4 times.
All right.
So they had a lot of possessions, but that means that they were essentially limiting the amount of time the defense was on the field for a lot of the game and scoring quickly, which that feels right to me. Like as far as what we saw today. So I don't know. I'm energized by this victory. This was a Steelers defense that has not been a great defense this year, but has a ton of talent and thought that they were turning a corner coming into this game. They thought that they just found some answers. And we saw a passing offense that to bring this a little bit back to Theo versus Ozzie. I don't think the Bears had to help as much in the passing game. I don't think so. I think that they were much more open in their ability to run their full passing offense because of Ozzie's ability to play more on an island. He wasn't on an island all game, I'm sure. I'll have to go back and review the tape, but I don't feel like the structure of the offense was as much designed to protect the left tackle in this game as it had been in previous games.
That's a really good point. Because Ben likes to use the 12 personnel, you can use it in so many different ways. If you don't have to have that tight end dedicated to covering up that left tackle and helping there, you can have them both go out. Komet caught a couple passes today. Loveland just keeps on finding spots, man. It's cool to watch his rapport with Caleb grow, because I feel like Caleb might be a hard quarterback to play with. He's here. Maybe he's playing on time. Maybe he's out of structure. You have to come back. You have to work one side of the field. It probably takes a little bit of practice and rapport to do that. And I feel like Colston is picking it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I do think that there is some Caleb might not be the easiest quarterback to play with. And that comes with positives and negatives in each themselves. But I do think that that's a point that probably we don't hear enough about. And that's not necessarily a knock on Caleb, but because it's also a part of what we think makes him so exciting as a football player. But I think we've seen it some with DJ Moore in the past of he's not hustling out this scramble drill, working his way back to the football. It's there are certain things that I think need to happen when your quarterback is Caleb Williams. And to your point, Loveland is doing an outstanding job of those small things.
Yeah, and Rowan was doing it early, but I feel like, I don't know, something's happened. I feel like he's plateaued or something's just not clicking between those two. Even on that one that play where I think TJ had said that it was a little bit inaccurate, but to me, it looked like Rome on that third down. I don't know. Did he stop or was he not? Did he think he was going to get hit? It just looked like a weird, you could see Caleb immediately look up at the replay booth because I think he was confused too as to what happened on that play. So something seems just kind of off with those two.
Yeah. Rome has never had a real, in his time in the NFL, it's been kind of an apparent weakness on option routes for him and the quarterback to be seeing the same thing. It's been a pretty constant issue, and we can't actually know if that's on the quarterback or on the receiver. But like I've always kind of felt like it's more on Rome. Like it seems that way, and so I tend to put that blame on Rome. I don't know if I'm right or not, but like that's the way that I've kind of seen it. And what I say by that is like he's reading the leverage of the defenders in front of him and what they're doing. So like if the defender's sitting in a zone, he might continue going. He might be running more of a slant route or an in route or something. But where if it might be man coverage or the zone is a little further back, then he might sit in that zone. Or I guess man coverage is probably where he's more running the slant, but and zone is more like he gets in that spot and he sits.
It's like where
and I think it's probably not so much man coverage versus zone coverage as it is the leverage of that defender, where they're aligned, how they're aligned. And like on the rep you're talking about, Rome sat. I feel like that defender was already right on top of him. You know, like to me, it would have made more sense for him to continue going, at least based on the initial broadcast view of it. But and that's where Caleb seemed to throw to that he would continue going that way. So I don't know. I've always coming into the season, I mentioned a few times that some of my concerns with Rome going forward, and I love Rome. Like I think he's a very good receiver, but if he's ever going to become that true like top 10 to 15 receiver in the NFL, these are the things that need to be ironed out because these are the things that we've seen be constant issues in a year and a half of his NFL career.
Yeah. And the same thing happened with DJ, right? At the end of the Baltimore game where Caleb, it looked like a way errant pass, but it looked like DJ stopped. I think some of that really needs to get cleaned up. But I mean, look, now we're doing the nitpicking that we were criticizing other people for doing. I wanted to ask you a question about the game plan. You had talked about they were trying to run it. It wasn't super successful. Do you think that running it was kind of the game plan? I know the first series went run, pass, which is, the John Fox special. And then after that, Swift only had 8 carries. Monangai only had 12. Do you think that the game was the initial game plan to more focus on that? And then Ben just said, you know what, it's not really working. We got to air it out and kind of switch it up a little bit. Because I think they ended up with the 35 passes and 25 runs, if I'm not mistaken. So he did get away from it a little bit.
Yeah, and 4 of those 25 runs were Caleb, which, it's kind of, I think one of those might have been designed. So I do think, I think that there was some game plan to get the running backs involved. But because we saw it like last week, we saw the Bengals, Chase Brown did great against this defense. But at the same time, this is also a defense that receivers have had a good time against throughout the season. And I think with the Bears probably wanted to pound the rock coming into the game, but had a quick trigger to say, we got to be hitting in the air because we can't afford to fall behind. We know the situation with our defense's health with it. And once a few more of those defenders went out, I think they were probably pretty much pedal to the metal. We got to be moving the football. And if the run's not working, we don't have time to fix it this week.
Yeah. That's what I love about Ben too, is he's, man, you can see pivots right in real time with first half, second half, what he's trying to do and what the game plans are. So it's pretty cool to see. One thing I did think was interesting is on that last offensive series, not the one with the kneel down after Brisker's tip, but the last meaningful one, he had Monangai in there instead of Swift. Normally Swift is his go-to guy, but he trusted Monangai there in that spot. So I thought that was pretty interesting from Ben Johnson.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that they're Monangai, like you mentioned, he got more carries than Swift today.
He did, yeah.
More touches and was really more efficient than Swift today, which I think makes sense. Like when I'm really thinking about it, I think of the Steelers as they are very powerful at the line of scrimmage defensively, very stout there, and their linebackers are going to get downhill and fill their run lanes fast. So like vision matters a lot with that, and your ability to find your spot and get downhill. And I think that's what Monangai is more successful at. And while Swift is more, he's gotten better, a lot better this year at getting downhill and finding his lane and getting downhill, but it's still hit or miss at times. And like today again was a game where I don't think you could afford many misses with that.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, the vision, Monangai saw the cut that he needed to make to get that first down to ice the game. He just slipped, you know?
Yeah.
So I do think Monangai has, he's got some pretty good vision, and he's got a pretty good cut step. You wouldn't he's kind of like a little bit of a muscle ball, but maybe you don't expect that, but he's got a pretty good jump cut. I mean, he's not the fastest guy in the world, but he can be a little shifty inside those big bodies if he needs to be.
Yeah. Now, Samir, you want to get to our first segment here for the show?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
The baddest man.
All right, Samir, who is your baddest man for the Chicago Bears today?
So a couple options, but I'm going to have to go with Montez Sweat. He had those 2 sacks. He had the 1 forced fumble. I think he made Mason Rudolph uncomfortable. He should have had a 3rd sack. I don't know how that happened. So I would probably go with Montez Sweat. I think for a defense that was really, battered and bruised and weathered coming into this, he's been the guy that's been there the whole time. All the other defensive stars have been in and out. He needed to have a game today, honestly. Like if this was the time, man, you got to bring it. And he did. He had a pretty good game. First half, maybe a little slower, but it seems like this defensive line starts to pick it up as the game gets going. So I would go with Montez Sweat. Just on a depleted defense, he needed to show up, and he did.
I think that's a great call. I mean, you mentioned the 2 sacks and the forced fumble. He had 3 tackles for loss on top of that too. So very nice game from him. For me, for my baddest man, I mean, part of like my first nomination, I guess, is Dennis Allen and the entire defensive coaching staff.
Sure.
Like it's hard to take your first string guys and week to week help them get better at certain things or find the holes in their game and find what they're good at and make that shine, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to do that when they're guys you just signed last week.
Crazy so, what he's doing.
They deserve credit. My second nomination is probably DeMarco Jackson. Wore the green dot today. 15 tackles, a tackle for loss. I mean, didn't do anything that would actually be like, that's a bad man, but like just kudos to him, right? He
stepping up, man.
He had to communicate to the whole defense, guy that's really new to this team, really new to this roster, this scheme, and it clearly did an outstanding job of communicating everything. But ultimately, I have to go with a guy who has been the nicest man a lot.
I think okay.
And that's Nahshon Wright.
Yeah, all right.
Nahshon Wright had a hell of a football game.
He did.
And
he did.
He's had some success in the past, but let's be honest. A lot of that was interceptions covering up for games that were probably really rough, right?
Yeah.
It was like making up for moments where it was like, oh, he got burned there. There was not a moment like that today where it felt like Nahshon Wright was a liability on the football field. He just played a hell of a football game. First quarter, Steelers come out in this game. One of their very first plays of the game, they're saying, we are going right at that man.
Yep. Beautiful.
And he picks them off. That is a statement. That is beautiful. And then he doesn't get burned at all in this game, I didn't think. On top of that, he comes with the big run stuff late in the game.
Yeah.
And even on the goal line, like the Steelers end up getting it in for a touchdown. This, sure, 3 minutes after this, because they had to keep on running it over and over. He gets he gets DK Metcalf to hold him because he is in a good position. And DK Metcalf says, this guy's about to blow up the play unless I do something. Holds him, gets the flag, pushes the Steelers back, and burns 3 more minutes off the clock. Huge game from Nahshon Wright. Huge.
He was
game.
cornerback one. He was cornerback one for most of this game. And good, great call. Great call.
Yeah, I'm a part of me is like, he's going to get paid this offseason.
Yeah, Bears aren't going to be able to keep him. They're not going to be able to keep him.
And I frankly, like, for whatever he's going to get paid, I don't know that he's worth keeping, because like 7 interceptions, he's going to get more money than probably makes sense. And I'm glad for him that he will, and I hope that he does live up to it. But he's earned every dollar of that in my mind, because he has found ways to get that football in his hands, and his length is a real problem at cornerback for all the questions that you might have about how leggy he is and his ability to kind of change direction.
And the Steelers really stopped taking deep shots. Like, they were not throwing it past 10 yards a lot at all. It was a lot of like sweeps and middle of the field stuff. Washington on the outside. They really weren't testing the Bears secondary much after that first quarter, really at all.
Which was really like that was in my mind, if you thought Mason Rudolph was like the better option than Aaron Rodgers in this game, it was because the deep ball, right? Like that, in my mind, that's why, because Mason Rudolph is not going to try to get that ball out like as fast as possible, like Rodgers with the broken hand would. Mm-hmm. And also, he probably just has a stronger arm than Rodgers at this point. Maybe, like, it might be questionable, but I would think that he has just a more capable deep ball than Rodgers, at Rodgers being like 41 or whatever he is now. So they won't take that away that quickly. That was big, because it took away any advantage that they had from Rudolph being the starter potentially.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and get to our next segment here.
The nicest man.
All right, Samir, who is the nicest man for the Chicago Bears this week?
I'm going to go the other side of that with Nick McLeod. I feel like that guy, every time he's on the field, he struggles, whether it's PIs or just getting juked. Calvin Austin juked him out of his cleats on that one. Was it 4th down or was it a 3rd down? I don't remember, but he does struggle every time. And I hate to pick on him because he's thrown into these situations with Tyreek getting hurt and all that, but like, he does struggle. And I don't know if you can really continue to put him out there in those situations. He had a rough game.
Do you have a choice?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
It's kind of like you're stuck with it, right? And it doesn't mean, like, I think it's a good choice. It's a good selection.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know if signing someone off the street is a better answer either. You know, like,
I don't know.
It's kind of, and you hope that next week you get Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon back, and that answers a lot of this. And hopefully Tyreek is good to go. But if not, like, we've lived with Nahshon Wright for this long.
I would be very comfortable at this point with Jalen and Nahshon and Kyler. Like, I would be comfortable with that.
Yeah, go a long way. But hopefully we're not seeing too much more Nick McLeod out there, and he can really focus in on special teams, which is really what he was more signed to do.
Which is fine. Yeah. Do that.
Yeah. For me, let's think here. Like, as far as the nicest man, I have a hard time going with many guys on the defense outside. Like, I think McLeod was a good option. And
I feel bad picking on him. It's not his natural role, but it was evident, right, that he was struggling a little bit.
I think Ruben Hippolyte was like, the Steelers might have been a little sad when he exited the game, because he was kind of just a runaway train towards, like,
he was
nothing at times.
There was that long run. I forget, I think it was Gainwell, not Warren, but it looked like Ruben just didn't know he was supposed to be on that side of the field.
Yeah.
I was like, why is that so wide open? Oh, I see.
Yeah.
We didn't have contain on that.
But ultimately, I'm gonna go with DeAndre Swift, because Swift. I mean, we're talking like, let's look at this: 1 catch for 4 yards, 8 rushes for 15 yards, and
not great.
To
and a fumble.
In the comments to this point, one of the reasons he might have seen less of the football later in the game, think the fumble got Swift in the doghouse. And I think that's a very fair statement. Like, that fumble was bad. Like, was really tough. And like, let's see, it felt like a big turning point in the game too, right? Like, it was like, because the Bears were down 14-7. You just had the fumble in the end zone by Caleb that the Steelers recovered. And the Bears are trying to answer that. And Swift fumbles, like, and that had the potential to send you down 21-7. Like, truly, good thing that the Steelers turned it over on downs, going for on 4th and 1, because that would have been a tie game, like, just based on final score, they kick a field goal there, it's 31-31 at the end of the game. Obviously, stuff changes, like how the game script would go would change, but like that, those 3 points ended up mattering. And if the Steelers did kick the field goal instead of going for it on 4th and 1 and not getting it.
Yeah, there was some interesting calls that Tomlin had that I was like, I'm glad you're doing that,
Yeah.
So it was interesting. But no, that's a good call on Swift. And I wonder if that dynamic is going to change now moving forward, if it was just a 1-game thing. I don't think Ben's necessarily married to anything. I think he's just like, we figure out what works and we do it, and there's almost like people can be positionless at times too. So that's what's really fun about this team.
Yeah. Now let's talk a little bit about, just because I mentioned it and you mentioned it a little earlier, the fumble in the end zone by Caleb, just because I think that fits in this nicest man category, because it was a similar moment. Caleb, I think, redeemed himself later, but Darnell Wright got a little beat on the outside. Like he held up long enough where you're like, if a fumble didn't happen, you're like, you got beat a little, but like you were okay. But because it results in the fumble, it turns into more like you got beat a little and it ended up really bad. Like, but at the end of the day, Caleb probably needed to have that ball out sooner. It was kind of my view on it. And obviously I couldn't see all the receivers or anything. I don't remember. I do think might have been Loveland was just kind of alone for a check down and Caleb didn't find him. But frankly, I think when I was watching that through during the game, Wright has really only been beat a handful of times this year. In pass pro. Like that, to that degree. And TJ Watt, he's gonna do that to even some of the
I mean, he had a hold on Watt as well that could have resulted in something disastrous had he not held him too. So a couple times there.
But so I think Caleb, there's probably a sense of security on the right side for him that he just probably wasn't as aware of it as it was happening as he probably should have been, where like that just happens. I get it. Like that is kind of a football happens moment for me. I wish Caleb had gotten the ball out or just been aware enough to know I can't move backwards against this.
Just get down. Don't go into the end zone. Just get down. Fine. You get sacked. You lose 6 yards. Just don't go into the end zone, with TJ Watt there. So I think he was just trying to do too much. And I mean, he's going to do that. That's what you got to live with Caleb Williams, right? Like he's going to get out of some of those and then he's going to catch him. It's going to bite him in the ass occasionally.
I mean, we're 11 games in the season. This is the first one. Like, I can live with it. I can live with it.
I mean, like, it sucks that it resulted in 6 points, right, for the other team. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. There was, I thought Caleb had 2 bad plays, and then one I was like, what are you doing? That was the fumble was one of them. The other one was on that last series when it was 3rd and 7, and Ben called a pass play. You cannot throw that ball to the sideline there for an incomplete pass and stop the clock. Now the Bears got lucky that there was an injury timeout, and then the Steelers had to burn their last timeout. But like, Caleb, you cannot throw that. His sideline passes have a very low completion percentage as it is for whatever reason. But you have to be smart enough there to be like, I'm not going to throw this 1,000 miles an hour like I normally do. This is the situation where I just run, slide, make them burn their timeout. It's okay. I thought that was a really poor decision. The other head scratcher for me was and this isn't a big deal, but in that first quarter, he was scrambling. It looked like he could have gotten the first down, and then he just like stepped out of bounds, like a yard short of it. And I was like, did he not know where the sticks were? That was a little confusing as well. But other than that, I thought he played fine. He had some misses, obviously, but he also had some big boy throws. Like it was a normal Caleb Williams game, kind of aside from those items.
Yeah. On the one where he stepped out of bounds, I think that was after he got like smacked by Jalen Ramsey, right? Like early in the game, he got smacked by Jalen Ramsey for not stepping out fast enough.
Oh, I thought that was before that happened. Okay.
Was it? Okay. I could be thinking of a different instance too. That wasn't probably as high leverage, but I thought it was after, and that was kind of, I thought it's like, he's just don't take the hit. Like I'm okay.
Don't take the hit. Fair enough.
At least if the one I'm thinking of was like 2nd down going into 3rd down. So it was like, okay, you have another down to get this. Like I get it.
Fair.
Now the late game incompletion. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was there a guy like right on him I thought there was a guy pretty close proximity to him.
There could have been, but even then, I would just be like, just fall down. Right?
I agree. I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where my thought being in that moment. It was like, I'd rather you just take the sack there.
Just take the sack, fall down. It's okay. Actually, you know what? Sorry, it was one more. It wasn't the stepping out of bounds was the third thing. The other third thing was the delay of game. I was like, what happened with that? That was pretty bad.
That was he got tunnel vision. And it's the first time this season that it's happened. So like I'm generally okay with it in a new offense if it hasn't happened. As long as it doesn't become a habit. But like the Steelers and there's something we talked about pregame, that very veteran secondary who can do a lot of things that are gonna toy with you. Mm-hmm. They toyed with him and it worked. And he got television trying to figure it out and lost track of the clock. Like that, not good. You don't want it to become a habit, but like, because it hasn't really been a recurring thing this year, I'm not too worried about it. I guarantee you going into Black Friday, Vic Fangio is going to see that and he's going to go like, oh, we're going to have fun with this if he doesn't fix it. So hopefully he's, on his P's and Q's for it going into next week.
They asked Ben Johnson about it, and he's like, "Those guys know, right? They got to get the play." He said, "I know those guys know. I'm going to save those timeouts, for when we need them." Yeah. So it doesn't sound like Ben is going to. It sounds like he's going to live with those 5 yards, and try to get it back, through the offense rather than burn one of those timeouts in an unnecessary situation.
All right, Samir, you ready to get to our next and final segment here?
Let's do it.
All right.
Keys to victory.
All right, so for any guys watching or listening that might not check out our game previews, every week we outline a few keys to victory for the Bears in the upcoming game and put them out in article form over at ontapsportsnet.com. And then in the post game, we review those and say, did the Bears execute this? Did they not? Did it end up mattering? Was this a good key, a bad? Like, did it make sense? Or in hindsight, was it a miss on our part? So our first key to victory here. Key number 1 was to get DeAndre Swift going early and often. And this was primarily a nod to Chase Brown the previous week against the Steelers, who had big numbers against this team, receiving and rushing, where it was like, okay, that might be something that they're able to take advantage of. Samir, do you think this was a good key? And do you think they did?
It was a good key. They didn't obviously do it, as we just talked about. They couldn't really get Swift going, and it's not because Kyle was going either. I mean, Kyle had 4 yards per carry, 12 for 48, which is nothing to write home about either. So I would say that while it was a good key to victory to keep some of that pass rush heat off of Caleb, especially if you're starting a brand new left tackle, I don't think it was materialized.
Yeah. And I guess I should also note, like, for these keys, we do them on Tuesday. So this week is a little different because, like, if we knew that the linebackers were all gone and that Jalen definitely wasn't playing, then it might have been a bit different of a thought process with our keys in this one, which typically we've been a lot closer on these, but that one is tougher, but I guess a bit tougher looking, but it was the information we had at the time, right? But so for our second key here, key number 2 was that the receivers must stop thinking and start making plays. And this one was Brendan's, and he was talking about, it looks like these guys are overthinking everything. They're overthinking their positioning, they're overthinking their timing, and like all that stuff is very important. But at the same time, they just need to play football, because like we're coming off the drops of the previous week and how often they were off their spots, off their marks. And like, it was just creating issues within the offense. These guys need to just feel the flow of the game to an extent. How do you think this key went for the Bears this week?
I think it went well. There wasn't as many obvious drops. I know Rome had one on the sidelines that got punched out. Great play by the defensive back. There was a little bit of miscues like we talked about on that third down with Rome crossing. But, I thought DJ found space where he needed to. The touchdown throws were great. They didn't drop any of those. There was no obvious like drops or gaffies like that. So I think the receiving core stepped up in terms of their gameplay.
I think so too. And I think looking at it, Rome, DJ, Loveland, and Burden all had 3+ catches. They all had 5+ targets. That's a winning
Great.
thing to me. When you're spreading the ball around that much, each of those guys having 5+ targets, that's huge. Something that's interesting here to me, though. Burden, 3 catches on 5 targets, 60%. Okay, that's fine. Loveland, 4 on 5, 4 catches on 5 targets, 80%. Yeah, that's solid. That's good. DJ, 5 catches on 7 targets. Again, that's pretty good. Rome, 3 catches on 9 targets.
Oh, yeah.
Most targeted guy in the game and only 3 catches. Some of that's like Caleb had some stuff that drifted on him and didn't quite hit the spot.
He was high on a lot of throws. Mm-hmm.
But also, Rome is the only guy that's happening to by those numbers.
Yeah.
Everyone else seems to not, like in this game at least. All the other receivers, his stuff was pretty on the money. Rome was the guy who was consistently off with, and that's just interesting to me. Something I'm going to continue looking at, because like 3 of 9 is that tells me there's something missing there between the two.
That is a very good observation. And it's not like Rome's the only guy going deep. DJ had some long catches. Luther is kind of a deep guy. So it is interesting that you bring that up.
Okay, now let's get to our final key to victory here. Key number 3, win the trenches, because this game has to be won there. And this was like about trenches and just toughness. Like they need to punch the Steelers in the mouth, because the AFC North in general kind of sets the standard for toughness around the league and for physicality. And if you're not punching first, you're going to get punched first by them. And it felt like today was very like Bears brought the fight. And I was very excited about that. But what do you think about the key? How do you think they executed?
It was obviously the key is great. It makes sense. I thought it was kind of a wash. I think both teams traded haymakers in the trenches. I thought the Steelers brought it in the first half. And then I thought the Bears really turned it on Mason Rudolph in the second half. Tip passes, sacks, fumbles. I thought they really started getting that second win. But I thought it was a good back and forth. Both teams were physical. Both teams were chirpy. There was a couple skirmishes back and forth. It was good to see our guys didn't back down. Good to see Gardner Johnson mix it up with Ramsey right on that late hit. So I think our guys brought that toughness and brought that physicality, but I don't think the Steelers backed down from it either.
Yeah, and in the comments here, we were not winning the trenches and we won. This wasn't. I guess I think I worded this key wrong. It wasn't so much about winning the trenches for me as winning the physicality battle. And like I kind of agree with you. It was probably a wash physicality wise, but like I feel like the Bears D line brought more physicality to the Steelers O line than their, like they made their presence felt, even if it wasn't always effective. It's like you can beat an opponent down even if you're not successful in preventing them from getting yards. And that's the way I saw this. Like they just got to be making them hurt, bruising them up, making them hurt, because late in the game, that's when it'll show up. And I felt like that's when it's like in the second half when Montez Sweat started really kind of playing really well. I think some of those body blows in the first half had a lot to do with that. And offensively, I feel like the Bears O-line, like they match the Steelers D-line's intensity, because that is a physical unit who wants to get their hands on you and punish you. And I think the Bears O-line managed that well. So I guess like as I'm talking all through, I do think the Bears won the physicality battle in the trenches, even if they didn't necessarily win the trenches in the run game aspect.
Yeah, the Steelers were running the ball kind of at will early on. They were getting 5-6 yards a pop, and then that like the fake tush push was like that was kind of crazy. But once Rudolph had to start putting it more downfield and they had to get away from that run game, is really when you saw the defensive line step up on the last couple series for the Bears, is when they played their best on defense. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I mean, I don't know. They held Jaylen Warren to 3.8 yards a carry. They had like Kenneth Gainwell. Obviously, the fake tush push was huge, 55 yards. But outside of that, we're talking 9 carries for 37 yards. Again, somewhere right around 3.8 yards a carry. Okay. Like they did outside of that fake tush push, and early in the game it didn't feel this way, right? It felt like
It didn't, yeah.
It felt like Jalen Warren was getting whatever he wanted early in the game, because he was. But by late in the game, they really locked it up pretty well on run defense, and I'm happy with that, because that means they were winning the point of attack with strength.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think they were winning the point of attack. I think they were just missing tackles, very obvious tackles that led to like another 4-5 yards after contact, which is kind of sloppy, but at least they were getting to that point of attack. So maybe that is an indication of winning that trench battle.
Yeah. And again, not winning the battle as much as just physicality. That's all I want. I wanted them to beat the crap out of him, basically. Like it was forget where the football is, just hit someone. And that's I do feel like they did that today, because I felt like by the fourth quarter that would matter, and I think it did today. But Samir, any final thoughts on this game before we close this thing out?
I think one thing that's cool as I'm watching these Bears games, and this I've never had this feeling before, is when you do get behind on like a 2nd and 12, or you have a penalty and it's 2nd and 20. Under every other Bears team that I could think of in my life, maybe not the early Nagy years, you're like, this is a dead drive. We're gonna punt it. I don't feel that way anymore. I'm like, oh, that stunk, but like we can very easily get a first down on the very next play. And that's really cool. That's kind of a fun feeling for me to like watch our team, to be like, no drive is dead. I know we've had some obviously really bad ones, but like those, you get a holding penalty, is not the end of the world. Like we can get past it, right? Even if we're kind of close, Ben's going to go for it, and you feel good about it. So I'm having fun watching this team on a week-to-week basis. I love the creativity with the offense. I love how they're not very predictable. That double reverse to Burden was awesome. You just don't know what you're going to see, and I'm having a great time watching this team unfold.
Yeah, and like you said, the aspect of, you're never out of it. 3rd and 20, you're not out of it, which is that is bizarre. That is unnatural to Bears fans. We don't understand that. We've only been hurt by that.
Exactly.
Aaron Rodgers has done it to us countless times, and we finally have an offense and a quarterback who is capable of delivering that, which is really exciting. Also, an offense that is capable of delivering a big play on a free play, which again we saw today happen. Really exciting. It's like from The Office, Michael Scott, like oh, I love inside jokes. Love to be a part of one someday. Exactly. Like that's how I feel. That's how I feel watching that. Like I always hope I'd be a part of one of these someday. Now for me, on final thoughts, so I'm gonna toss it into the comments here. We have Eric asking, does Trapillo win that spot over Benedict based on his performance? And I have to agree with Bear Truth 9 here. Of if Trapillo keeps playing like this, like there's no reason to see Theo on the field again. Nope. And I don't think, unless practice is something very different, like they covered up a lot of stuff today that we didn't realize, which I don't think is the case. I can't imagine going back to Theo after that game today. You're talking about high caliber competition that he saw today and handled admirably in his first.
Draft pedigree matters, right? Draft pedigree matters, obviously. Should it not, whatever. But like 2nd round pick, if he hits, this is what you want to see, right? Do you want to see, do I need to draft a left tackle next year? And if you start Theo Benedict for the rest of the season, you still don't know the answer to that, because I think you know what Theo is a little bit. Yeah. But if you can hit on Ozzie, you at least kind of maybe can check off a huge box, right? That you didn't need to check off before. So I think it's his job to lose right now, to be honest.
Yeah, agreed. And also, quick shout out to Luke Newman. He jumped in there and didn't even notice that there was he was not a liability by any means. I mean, I don't know what that means for his future. It was a handful of snaps, but it's exciting that he could just jump in there and it was nothing.
I was wondering who I thought maybe Bates would get that nod, but I wasn't sure if Bates preferred a side or not. So I was kind of curious to see who it was going to be.
I really think Bates is just a backup center at this point. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. And you're right. Like I wasn't sure who was going to come in. I wasn't sure if it would be Bates or Newman, but I mean, a part of me thinks that Bates is more like old regime / Ryan Poles' guy. Whereas like this regime is, they brought in Luke Newman for a reason, right? Because they believe in him. Not that they don't believe in Bates, but like I don't know that I've seen anything from Bates in a Bears uniform to believe that strongly in.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely right. Absolutely right.
All right.
It's good to see.
Samir, why don't we get out of here with a good old fashioned bear down, and we'll check out the ending of Sunday Night Football.
Hell yeah, dude! Bear down, 8-3, baby, first place. Let's go, big game Friday.
8-3, big game Black Friday. Bear down.
Bear down.